The gun pressed against her temple felt colder than the Seoul winter rain. Olivia's breath came in shallow gasps as she crouched behind the dumpster in the alley, her ex-boyfriend's voice cutting through the downpour like broken glass. "You think you can leave me?" His footsteps splashed closer. She had 3 seconds, maybe 4, before he found her. Her eyes darted wildly through the darkness until they landed on it, a black sedan with tinted windows, engine purring, driver's door slightly ajar. Without thinking, she ran. Chang Mao noticed the girl the moment she dove into his backseat. He was waiting for a business associate outside a Gangnam nightclub when a flash of movement caught his eye in the rearview mirror. A young woman, soaked through, trembling, her school uniform plastered to her skin. Blood trickled from a cut above her eyebrow. Their eyes met in the mirror, hers wide with terror, his cold and calculating. "Please," she whispered, "don't let him find me." Chang Mao's hand moved instinctively toward the gun beneath his jacket. He was the youngest boss in Seoul's underground, a man whose name made grown men flinch. Children did not belong in his world. He opened his mouth to tell her to get out. Then he saw the man. He burst from the alley across the street, wild-eyed, scanning the sidewalk with the desperate fury of someone who had lost control. Chang Mao recognized that look. He had seen it countless times, men who believed they owned things that were never theirs to possess. The man's gaze swept toward the sedan. Chang Mao made a decision that would alter everything. He reached back without turning, his voice low and commanding. "Get down! Don't make a sound." Olivia flattened herself across the backseat, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She heard footsteps approach the car, then stop. Through the gap beneath the front seat, she could see expensive leather shoes, droplets of rain sliding off polished surfaces. Looking for something, Chang Mao's voice was silk over steel. "A girl," the man panted. "Teenager, school uniform, she came this way." Chang Mao lit a cigarette with deliberate slowness, letting smoke curl from his lips. "I've been sitting here for 20 minutes, haven't seen anyone." He paused, his eyes moving over the man with calculated indifference. "You should go home. The rain is getting worse." It was not a suggestion. The man hesitated, something in Chang Mao's tone making the hairs on his neck rise. He backed away slowly, then turned and disappeared into the rain-soaked streets. Silence stretched in the car for a long moment. "He's gone," Chang Mao said quietly. "You can sit up." If this story touched your heart, hit that thumbs-up button and subscribe for more incredible tales of hope, healing, and unexpected miracles. Olivia pushed herself upright, her entire body shaking. She expected him to tell her to leave, to threaten her for involving him. Instead, he studied her in the mirror with an expression she couldn't read, somewhere between irritation and something softer. "What's your name?" he asked. "Olivia," she whispered. "How old are you?" 17. His jaw tightened. Too young, far too young for whatever hell had put that fear in her eyes. "Who was that?" he asked, though he already knew. "My ex-boyfriend," she said, her voice breaking. "He won't let me go. I tried to end it 3 months ago, but he follows me everywhere. He waits outside my school. He threatened my mother." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "Tonight he said if I didn't come back to him, he would make sure I never left." Chang Mao's fingers drummed once against the steering wheel, a habit when he was thinking. He had built an empire on violence and fear, had ended men for far less than threats against children. Every instinct told him to walk away, to let this girl's problems remain her own. But something in her eyes stopped him. She reminded him of his sister, gone 15 years now, taken by men who believed they could take whatever they wanted. "Where do you live?" he asked. Olivia gave him an address in a modest neighborhood across the city. Chang Mao pulled away from the curb without another word, driving through rain-slicked streets with the focused precision of someone who never made careless moves. The drive took 20 minutes. Neither of them spoke, but Olivia watched him in the mirror. His sharp jawline, the way his eyes constantly scanned the road, the tattoo that crept up his neck and disappeared beneath his collar. She knew what he was. She had grown up in Seoul long enough to recognize the dangerous men who operated in shadows. Yet somehow, sitting in his car felt safer than anywhere she had been in months. When they reached her building, Chang Mao finally turned to face her. "This boyfriend," he said, "does he know where you live?" Olivia nodded miserably. Chang Mao's expression darkened. "Then you can't stay here." He reached into his jacket, and Olivia flinched before realizing he was pulling out a phone, not a weapon. He made a call, speaking in rapid Korean too low for her to fully hear. "Get your things," he told her when he hung up. "You have 5 minutes." "What? Where am I going?" "Somewhere he can't find you," Chang Mao said. "Unless you'd prefer to wait here for him to come back." Olivia's mother wasn't home, working the night shift at the hospital as always. She threw clothes into a backpack with shaking hands, grabbed her school books, a photo of her late father. When she came back down, Chang Mao was leaning against his car, scanning the street with predatory awareness. The safe house was in Itaewon, tucked above a restaurant that closed at midnight. Chang Mao led her up narrow stairs to a small but clean apartment. 2 rooms, a kitchen, bars on the windows. "You'll stay here," he said. "My men watch this building. No one gets in without my approval." Olivia set her bag down slowly. "Why are you helping me?" Chang Mao turned toward the door, his back to her. For a moment he said nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. "Because someone should have helped my sister, and no one did." He left before she could respond. That night, Olivia lay awake in an unfamiliar bed, listening to the sounds of Seoul filtering through the windows, traffic, distant music, voices in languages she half understood. She thought about the man in the expensive car, the coldness in his eyes that somehow made her feel protected rather than afraid. She wondered if she had just traded one dangerous man for another. 3 days later, Olivia still hadn't left the apartment. Food appeared at her door twice a day, delivered by silent men who never made eye contact. She attended her online classes, completed homework at a small table by the window, watched the street below where she sometimes glimpsed figures who seemed to be watching back. On the 4th evening, Chang Mao returned. He knocked this time, waited for her to answer. He carried takeout from a nearby restaurant, the smell of jjigae and rice filling the small space. "You need to eat properly," he said, setting containers on the counter. "Not just ramyeon." Olivia stared at him. "How did you know I've been eating ramyeon?" "I know everything that happens in my buildings," Chang Mao replied. He began unpacking the food with efficient movements. "Sit." They ate in awkward silence, Olivia stealing glances at him between bites. Up close, in the warm light of the apartment, he looked younger than she had first thought, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes that suggested he had seen far too much. "Have you heard from him?" Chang Mao asked finally. Olivia shook her head. "I turned off my phone like you told me." "Good." He set down his chopsticks. "I need to know everything about him. Name, where he works, who his friends are, anywhere he might go." "Why?" Chang Mao's eyes met hers, and there was something absolutely certain in them. "Because I'm going to make sure he never comes near you again." The way he said it sent a chill through her, not fear, but something else. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. Over the next hour, Olivia told him everything. Her ex-boyfriend's name was Min-jun. He was 23, worked at his father's construction company, had a history of violence she had been too ashamed to report. He had isolated her from friends, controlled who she spoke to, escalated from verbal abuse to physical within months. Chang Mao listened without interruption, his expression growing darker with each detail. When she finished, he stood. "Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone except my men. I'll handle this." "Wait," Olivia said, rising quickly. "What are you going to do?" Chang Mao paused at the door, his hand on the frame. "What should have been done a long time ago?" The next morning, Min-jun received a visit at work. 3 men in dark suits appeared at the construction site, asking politely if they could speak with him privately. His father's employees watched nervously as Min-jun was escorted to a black car, the same car Olivia had hidden in days before. Chang Mao sat in the backseat, smoking a cigarette with controlled patience. Minjun's bravado crumbled the moment he saw him. He had heard stories about Chang Mao, whispered warnings in the underground clubs where he liked to drink and boast. This was a man who dismantled rivals without mercy, who commanded loyalty through fear and respect in equal measure. "I understand you've been bothering someone," Chang Mao said quietly. "I don't know what you're talking about," Minjun stammered. Chang Mao pulled out his phone, showed him a photo. Olivia, taken from security footage, running through rain-soaked streets. "This girl, you've been following her, threatening her, refusing to accept her decision to leave." Minjun's face flushed. "She's my girlfriend, that's none of your business." "She was your girlfriend," Chang Mao corrected, his voice dropping to something lethal. "Now she's under my protection, which means if you come within a kilometer of her, if you contact her, if you even think about her too loudly, I will know." He leaned forward, close enough that Minjun could smell expensive cologne and cigarette smoke. "And then I will personally ensure you understand what it means to make an enemy of me." Minjun tried to speak, but his voice caught. "Do we have an understanding?" Chang Mao asked. Minjun nodded frantically. "Say it," Chang Mao commanded. "I won't go near her," Minjun choked out. "I won't contact her, I'll leave her alone." Chang Mao studied him for a long moment, then gestured to his men. "If I hear differently, this conversation will not be repeated. There will be no second warning." Minjun was released on a corner 3 blocks from the construction site, trembling and pale. Chang Mao watched him stumble away, then made a single phone call. "Follow him," he told his associate. "I want to know everywhere he goes for the next month. If he even looks in her direction, I want to know immediately." That evening, Chang Mao returned to the apartment. Olivia was sitting by the window when he entered, her school books spread across the table. She looked up, tension written across her face. "It's done," he said simply. "What does that mean?" "It means he won't bother you anymore." Chang Mao moved to the kitchen, poured himself water from the tap. "I had a conversation with him. He understands the situation now." Olivia stood, her heart racing. You didn't hurt him, did you?" Chang Mao turned to face her, something almost amused in his expression. "I didn't have to. Sometimes the threat is enough." He paused. "Though I would have if necessary." The honesty of it should have frightened her. Instead, Olivia felt a weight lift from her chest that she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. For months she had felt powerless, trapped, afraid to sleep or walk home alone. And this man, this dangerous, complicated man, had given her freedom with nothing more than words. "Why?" she asked again, the question that had haunted her since the night in the rain. "Why would you do this for me?" Chang Mao set down the glass carefully. For a long moment he said nothing, his gaze distant, focused on something she couldn't see. "My sister was 19, he said finally. "She had a boyfriend who wouldn't let her go. One night he decided if he couldn't have her, no one could." His voice was flat, emotionless, but Olivia could hear the pain beneath it. "I was in prison when it happened. Couldn't protect her. By the time I got out, she was gone and he had disappeared." He looked at Olivia directly. "I spent 2 years finding him. When I did, I made sure he understood exactly what he had taken from the world." The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. "I'm sorry," Olivia whispered. "Don't be," Chang Mao said. "Just don't waste the chance she never got." He left again after that, and Olivia stood alone in the apartment, crying for the sister she had never met and the man who carried her memory like a wound that would never fully heal. A week passed, then 2. Minjun kept his distance, whether from fear or genuine change. Olivia didn't know and didn't care. Chang Mao's men confirmed he had stopped asking about her, stopped loitering near her school. It was as if she had simply ceased to exist in his world. Slowly, carefully, Olivia began to breathe again. She returned to attending school in person, though one of Chang Mao's drivers took her there and picked her up each day. She reconnected with friends she had isolated herself from, started laughing again, rediscovered what it felt like to walk down a street without constantly looking over her shoulder. And through it all, Chang Mao appeared and disappeared like a shadow that watched over her. Sometimes he would bring food, staying only long enough to ensure she ate. Other times he would sit in silence while she did homework, working on his own laptop, his presence somehow comforting rather than intrusive. He never touched her, never said anything inappropriate, maintained a careful distance that spoke of respect and boundaries she had never known with Minjun. But something was growing between them, subtle and dangerous. It started with small things. The way her heart would jump when she heard his knock at the door, the disappointment when days passed without seeing him, the way she found herself wondering what he did in the hours between their meetings. One evening, a month after the night in the rain, Olivia worked up the courage to ask him. "What is it you actually do?" she said as they shared dinner. "I know you're involved in things, but what exactly?" Chang Mao set down his chopsticks, considering how much truth to give her. "I run an organization," he said carefully. "We handle various business interests across Seoul, some legal, some less so." "Like the Mafia," Olivia said. He smiled slightly. "That's a dramatic term, but not entirely inaccurate." "Doesn't that bother you?" she asked. "Doing illegal things." Chang Mao leaned back, studying her. "The world isn't as simple as legal and illegal. Sometimes the law protects the wrong people, punishes the desperate, ignores the suffering. I operate in the spaces where the system fails." He paused. "That doesn't make me a good man, but it doesn't make me purely evil either." Olivia absorbed this, turning it over in her mind. "And the men who work for you?" "Most of them came from nothing. I gave them purpose, protection, a way to provide for their families. In return, they're loyal." He met her eyes. "Loyalty is the only currency that matters in my world." "Am I part of your world now?" The question came out softer than she intended. Chang Mao's expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering across it before he could hide it. "You shouldn't be," he said quietly. "You should be in school, planning for university, dating boys your own age who can give you a normal life." "I don't want normal," Olivia heard herself say. "Normal gave me Minjun. Normal told me to stay quiet and accept it." "And what do you want instead?" She didn't answer, because the truth felt too dangerous to speak aloud. What she wanted was sitting across from her, a man 10 years older who lived in darkness, but had shown her the only real kindness she'd known in months. The tension between them stretched taut, electric. Chang Mao stood abruptly. "I should go. You have school tomorrow." But at the door, he hesitated. "Olivia," he said without turning around, "you're not part of my world. You're the reminder that there's something beyond it. Don't forget that." After he left, Olivia sat in the quiet apartment, her heart racing with feelings she knew were impossible and inappropriate and absolutely undeniable. The next day at school, Olivia found it hard to concentrate. Her friends noticed, asking if she was okay, if everything was all right at home. She smiled and lied, saying she was just tired, stressed about exams. How could she explain that she was falling for a man who lived in shadows, who commanded criminals, who had threatened violence on her behalf? When Chang Mao's driver picked her up that afternoon, she asked to be taken somewhere other than the apartment. "Where?" the driver asked, uncertain. "Anywhere," Olivia said. "I need air, I need to think." They drove to Namsan Tower, the city spreading out below them in the golden afternoon light. Olivia walked to the observation area, leaning against the railing, watching Seoul pulse with life beneath her. She didn't hear Chang Mao approach until he spoke. "My driver called me," he said, coming to stand beside her. "Said you seemed upset." "I'm not upset," Olivia replied. "I'm confused." "About what?" She turned to face him fully, gathering courage. "About this, us, whatever this is." Chang Mao's jaw tightened. "There is no us. I'm protecting you, that's all." "Is it?" Olivia challenged. "Then why do you come by almost every night? Why do you make sure I eat properly? Why do you sit with me when you clearly have 100 other things you should be doing?" "Because I made a promise to keep you safe." "No," Olivia said. "You made a promise to deal with Minjun. You did that. You could have walked away after that conversation." She took a step closer. "So why didn't you?" Chang Mao looked at her for a long moment, something breaking in his carefully controlled expression. "Because you're 17 years old," he said, his voice rough. "Because I'm dangerous. because anything between us would be wrong in every way that matters. But you feel it too, Olivia said softly. Don't you? The silence was answer enough. Chang Mao turned away, his hands gripping the railing. What I feel is irrelevant. You have your whole life ahead of you. University, career, meeting someone appropriate who can give you the future you deserve. I won't be the man who takes that away from you. What if I don't want that future? Olivia asked. What if I want something different? You're too young to know what you want. Stop saying that, Olivia said, frustration bleeding into her voice. Stop treating me like a child who doesn't understand her own mind. I've been through things most people twice my age never experience. I know exactly what I feel. Chang Mao finally looked at her, and there was pain in his eyes. And what do you feel? Safe, Olivia said. For the first time in a year, I feel safe. Not just because you protected me from Minjun, but because when I'm with you, I don't have to pretend to be smaller or quieter or less than I am. Her voice caught. You're the first person who's ever made me feel like I matter. You do matter, Chang Mao said roughly. That's why I can't. He stopped himself, shaking his head. This conversation is over. He walked away, leaving Olivia alone with the city spread out below her and tears burning in her eyes. 2 days passed without contact. Olivia went to school, came home, ate alone. The apartment felt emptier now, haunted by the ghost of conversations and shared meals. She wondered if Chang Mao was avoiding her deliberately, putting distance between them before something irreversible happened. On the third night, someone knocked at the door. Olivia opened it, expecting one of Chang Mao's men with food. Instead, she found him standing there, soaked from rain she hadn't realized had started, his expression raw and unguarded. I can't stay away, he said without preamble. I've tried. I've told myself every reason why this is wrong, why I should walk away and leave you to live your life. But I can't. He stepped inside, water dripping onto the floor. So I need you to tell me to leave. I need you to be the strong one because I'm not strong enough to do this on my own. Olivia stared at him, her heart hammering. Every rational thought told her to do exactly what he was asking, to send him away, to protect both of them from the impossibility of what they felt. Instead, she closed the distance between them and kissed him. For a heartbeat, Chang Mao stood frozen. Then he was kissing her back, his hands framing her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about him. The kiss was desperate and tender, months of tension breaking like a dam. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Chang Mao rested his forehead against hers. This is a mistake, he whispered. I know, Olivia replied. I'm going to ruin your life. You already saved it. Chang Mao pulled back enough to look at her properly, searching her face. I can't give you normal. I can't give you safe or simple or any of the things you should have. I don't want those things, Olivia said. I want you. The certainty in her voice seemed to undo something in him. Chang Mao kissed her again, slower this time, savoring it. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. Then we do this carefully, he said. No one can know. Not my men, not your friends, not until you're 18 at least. Can you live with that? Olivia nodded. As long as I can live with you. That night they sat together on the small couch, Chang Mao's arm around her shoulders, Olivia's head resting against his chest. They talked about everything and nothing, her dreams for university, his childhood before the criminal life found him, the sister they both carried in different ways. What was her name? Olivia asked quietly. Jia-Yon, Chang Mao said. She wanted to be a teacher, loved children, loved books, believed the world could be better than it was. His voice softened. You remind me of her sometimes, not in appearance but in spirit. She had that same stubbornness, that same refusal to accept things as they were. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you, Chang Mao said. He pressed a kiss to the top of Olivia's head. She would have told me I was an idiot for getting involved with someone so young. You are an idiot, Olivia said, smiling against his chest. But you're my idiot. The weeks that followed were stolen moments between the structure of their separate lives. Chang Mao continued running his organization, dealing with the violence and chaos that came with his position. Olivia attended school, maintained perfect grades, presented the image of a normal teenager to the world. But in the quiet hours between, they built something that felt dangerously close to love. Chang Mao would appear at the apartment late at night, exhausted from meetings or confrontations, and find peace in simply sitting beside Olivia while she studied. She learned to read his moods, to know when he needed silence and when he needed to talk. He learned the small things that made her happy, tea akbaki from the vendor near her school, books from the English section at Kyobo, quiet evenings where they didn't have to pretend. Their relationship existed in shadows, protected by secrecy and careful boundaries. Chang Mao never allowed her near his business, kept her completely separated from the violence that defined his world. And Olivia never pushed, understanding instinctively that this was how he protected her. But eventually, every secret finds the light. It started small, one of Chang Mao's associates noticing how often he visited the Itiwan apartment, questions about who lived there and why the boss seemed so invested. Chang Mao deflected, claiming she was the daughter of an old friend, someone he had promised to look after. The lie held for a while. Then Minjun made a mistake. 3 months after Chang Mao's warning, emboldened by time and alcohol, Minjun showed up at Olivia's school. He waited by the gates at dismissal, his presence immediately noticed by the security Chang Mao had quietly arranged. Within minutes, Chang Mao received a call. He was in a meeting with suppliers when his phone buzzed. The moment he saw the message, his expression went cold in a way that made everyone in the room tense. "We're done here," he said, standing abruptly. "Get out." No one questioned him. Chang Mao drove to the school faster than advisable, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The thought of Minjun anywhere near Olivia filled him with a rage he rarely allowed himself to feel. He had given the man a chance, been merciful when mercy wasn't his nature. That mercy was over. He arrived to find Minjun being quietly detained by his men in an alley behind the school. Olivia stood with her friends a safe distance away, her face pale but composed. The moment she saw Chang Mao, something in her expression shifted, relief mixed with fear, not for herself but for what he might do. Chang Mao walked past her without acknowledgement, every line of his body radiating controlled violence. In the alley, he grabbed Minjun by the collar and slammed him against the brick wall. "I warned you," Chang Mao said, his voice deadly quiet. "I told you what would happen if you came near her again." "I just wanted to talk," Minjun stammered. "I just wanted to apologize." "You don't get to talk to her. You don't get to apologize. You don't get to exist in her world." Chang Mao's grip tightened. "I gave you a chance to walk away. You wasted it." What happened next, Olivia didn't see. Chang Mao's men moved to block the alley from view, and when Chang Mao emerged 15 minutes later, his knuckles were bruised and Minjun was being loaded into a car with instructions to be driven to a hospital in another district. "He'll survive," Chang Mao told his second-in-command. "But make sure he understands this was his last warning. Next time he won't be walking away." Olivia approached cautiously once the others had dispersed. "Is he?" "He's alive," Chang Mao said shortly. "More than he deserves." He finally looked at her, and some of the coldness faded from his eyes. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Olivia said, "I saw him and called your number immediately." "Good." Chang Mao wanted to pull her close, to reassure himself she was safe, but they were too exposed here. "Go home, I'll come by tonight." But before Olivia could leave, one of her classmates approached, a girl named Sujin who had been standing nearby when Minjun appeared. "Olivia," Sujin said carefully, glancing at Chang Mao. "Who is he? Why did that guy listen to him like that?" Olivia's mind raced, searching for an explanation that wouldn't reveal too much. "He's a family friend," she said. "He's been looking out for me." Sujin studied Chang Mao with the sharp awareness of a teenager who watched too many dramas. "He looks like someone from a gangster movie." Chang Mao smiled slightly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Appearances can be deceiving." "Can they?" Sujin asked, unconvinced. The moment marked a shift. Other students had seen the confrontation, witnessed Chang Mao's arrival, and the fear it had triggered in Minjun. By the next morning, rumors were spreading through the school that Olivia was connected to the criminal underworld, that the man protecting her was dangerous, that she was somehow involved in things no high school student should be near. Most students avoided her after that, but a few looked at her differently, with a mixture of fear and fascination, as if she had suddenly become more interesting, more dangerous by association. Olivia hated it. That evening, when Chang Mao arrived at the apartment, she confronted him about it. "People are talking," she said. "They saw you today, saw what you did. Now they think I'm some kind of gangster's girlfriend." "Aren't you?" Chang Mao asked quietly. Olivia stopped, the truth of it settling over her. "I suppose I am." "Do you want me to stay away?" Chang Mao asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Make it look like we're not connected." "No," Olivia said immediately. Then softer, "I don't know, maybe that would be easier." Chang Mao moved to the window, looking out at the Seoul night. "I've been thinking about this," he said. "About what happens when you graduate, when you turn 18, when you're legally an adult and free to make your own choices." He turned to face her. "I think you should go to university somewhere else, somewhere far from Seoul, from me, from all of this." Olivia felt her chest tighten. "You want me to leave?" "I want you to have options," Chang Mao corrected. "Right now, your entire world revolves around me, around this protected bubble I've created. You need to see what else is possible before you decide if this is really what you want." "I already know what I want." "You're 17, Chang Mao said gently. "You've been through trauma, and I was there when you needed someone. That doesn't mean this is love, Olivia. It might just be gratitude." The words stung more than she expected. "Is that what you think this is?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Gratitude." Chang Mao crossed the distance between them, cupping her face gently. "I think you deserve the chance to find out. And I think if you stay here, in my world, you'll never know if you chose me or if circumstances chose for you." Tears slipped down Olivia's cheeks. "What if I go and realize I don't want this? What if I come back and you've moved on?" "Then that's what was meant to happen," Chang Mao said, though the words clearly cost him. "I would rather lose you to a better life than keep you in this one out of selfishness." They stood like that for a long moment, foreheads pressed together, both knowing he was right even as it broke something between them. "I'll think about it," Olivia whispered finally. "That's all I ask." The months that followed were bittersweet. Olivia threw herself into her studies, determined to earn admission to a good university whether she stayed in Seoul or left. Chang Mao continued to visit, but something had shifted between them, an awareness that their time together was finite, that every moment was borrowed against an uncertain future. Her 18th birthday arrived on a cold February morning. Chang Mao took her to an expensive restaurant in Gangnam, a place so elegant that Olivia felt out of place in her simple dress. But Chang Mao looked at her like she was the most important person in the room, and gradually she relaxed. "I have something for you," he said over dessert, sliding a small box across the table. Inside was a delicate necklace, a small silver pendant shaped like a compass. "So you can always find your way home," Chang Mao said quietly. "Wherever you decide home is." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "I haven't decided yet about university." "I know. I got accepted to Yonsei," she said, "and to a school in Busan, and one in London." Chang Mao's expression didn't change, but she saw the flicker of emotion in his eyes at the mention of London. "London is far," he said carefully. "It is," Olivia agreed, "but it's also an incredible opportunity, full scholarship, a chance to study international relations, maybe work for an NGO someday." She paused. "It's everything I should want." But it means leaving you," Olivia said, "and I don't know if I'm strong enough to do that." Chang Mao reached across the table, taking her hand. "You're stronger than you think, strong enough to walk into my car when you were terrified, strong enough to rebuild your life after Minjun, strong enough to make the choice that's right for you, even if it's hard." "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "I want you to go," Chang Mao said, his voice rough. "I want you to see the world to become everything you're capable of being. I want you to meet people who can offer you things I never could: stability, respectability, a life without looking over your shoulder. And if I come back, then I'll be here," Chang Mao promised. "But you have to go first. You have to know what else is possible." Olivia looked down at the compass pendant, turning it over in her fingers. She thought about the girl who had hidden in a stranger's car, terrified and desperate. She thought about how far she had come, how much she had changed. "Okay," she said finally, "I'll go to London." Chang Mao's grip on her hand tightened, and she saw the cost of those words written across his face. "But," Olivia continued, "I'm coming back when I finish. 4 years, that's my promise to you." 4 years is a long time, Chang Mao said. "A lot can change." "Not how I feel about you," Olivia said with certainty. That night, he held her close in the apartment, neither of them sleeping, both memorizing the feel of this moment before distance divided them. "I'll write," Olivia whispered, "every week." "I'll be terrible at writing back," Chang Mao admitted. "I don't care, I just need to know you're there." "I'll always be here," he promised. 3 months later, Olivia stood in Incheon Airport, her bags checked, her boarding pass in hand. Chang Mao had driven her there himself, breaking protocol, not caring who saw them together. At the security checkpoint, they stopped, both knowing this was where they had to say goodbye. 4 years, Olivia said, her voice breaking. 4 years, Chang Mao confirmed. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like he could somehow keep her there through will alone. "Be brilliant, be happy, become the person you were always meant to be." "I love you," Olivia said against his chest. It was the first time either of them had said it aloud. "I love you too," Chang Mao replied, the words rough with emotion. "That's why I'm letting you go." They kissed once more, desperate and tender, a promise of someday. Then Olivia pulled away, picked up her carry-on, and walked through security without looking back. If she had, she would have seen Chang Mao standing there long after she disappeared, his hands in his pockets, his expression unguarded in a way he never allowed around anyone else. In London, Olivia threw herself into her new life with determined focus. She studied hard, made friends from every corner of the world, discovered that she was brilliant at diplomacy and conflict resolution. Her professors praised her insight, her ability to see multiple perspectives, to find peaceful solutions to seemingly impossible problems. She wrote to Chang Mao every week, long emails about her classes and her thoughts, and the ways London was changing her. His responses came less frequently, but were always thoughtful, brief updates about Seoul, about his work, sanitized for her safety, about how proud he was of everything she was accomplishing. But distance took its toll. The first year was hardest. Olivia missed him constantly, felt the absence like a physical wound. She turned down dates from classmates, unable to imagine being with anyone else. The second year was easier. The routine of university life absorbed her, and while she still thought of Chang Mao daily, the ache had dulled to something manageable. By the third year, doubts began to creep in. She was 21 now, surrounded by opportunities and possibilities. Young men her own age pursued her, kind, educated, uncomplicated men who could offer her futures free from danger and secrecy. She wondered if Chang Mao had been right, if what they'd shared had been more about circumstance than genuine compatibility. She wondered if she was holding onto something that had already faded. Then, in her final year, everything changed. Olivia was interning at an NGO focused on human trafficking when she encountered a case that made her blood run cold. A Korean girl, barely 16, had been smuggled into London and forced into exploitative work. The details were horrifyingly familiar: the controlling boyfriend, the escalating abuse, the inability to escape. Olivia worked on the case personally, using connections she had built and resources she had access to through the NGO. They got the girl out, got her safe, but the experience shook Olivia to her core. That night, she called Chang Mao for the first time in months. He answered on the second ring, as if he'd been waiting. "Olivia." Just hearing his voice broke something loose inside her. "There was a girl," she said, the words tumbling out. "Just like me, scared and trapped, and no one was listening to her." "Did you help her?" Chang Mao asked gently. "Yes, we got her to safety." "Then you did what I couldn't do for my sister," Chang Mao said. "What someone should have done for you." Olivia closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I might have moved on," she admitted. "I thought maybe you were right, that distance would change how I felt." "And did it?" "No," Olivia whispered. "If anything, it made me understand why I love you. Because you taught me that protecting people who can't protect themselves is the most important thing anyone can do. You taught me that strength means standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves." The silence on the other end stretched for a long moment. "I've missed you," Chang Mao said finally, his voice rough. "Every day, Olivia, every single day." "I'm graduating in 4 months," Olivia said, "and then I'm coming home." "To Seoul." "To you." When Olivia stepped off the plane at Incheon Airport 4 months later, she was not the same frightened teenager who had left. She was a woman now, educated, experienced, certain of who she was and what she wanted. Her degree was in her suitcase along with job offers from 3 different NGOs. She had spent 4 years becoming everything Chang Mao had hoped she would. And she was coming back to him anyway. He was waiting at arrivals, standing apart from the crowds, his eyes scanning the passengers with the same predatory awareness he'd always had. When he saw her, everything else fell away. Olivia dropped her bags and ran to him. They collided in an embrace that felt like coming home after years at sea. Chang Mao buried his face in her hair, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe, and neither of them cared who was watching. "You came back," he said against her ear. "I promised I would," Olivia replied. They left the airport together, the 4-year separation dissolving as if it had never existed. In the car, Chang Mao couldn't stop touching her hand, her face, reassuring himself she was real. "You're even more beautiful than I remembered," he said. Olivia laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in years. "You're exactly as I remembered, still dangerous, still impossible, still mine." "Always yours," Chang Mao confirmed. That evening, they returned to the Itaewon apartment, the place where their story had truly begun. It looked the same, preserved exactly as Olivia had left it, as if Chang Mao had been waiting for her return all along. "I have something to tell you," Olivia said as they stood in the familiar space. "I got a job offer from an organization that works with victims of domestic violence and trafficking in Seoul." Chang Mao turned to her, surprise evident. "You're staying." "If you'll have me," Olivia said. "I know it won't be easy. I know your world is dangerous and complicated. But I also know that I spent 4 years becoming someone who can handle that. Someone who chooses this consciously, with full awareness of what it means." Chang Mao crossed to her, framing her face with his hands. "Are you sure you could have any life you wanted?" "I want this one," Olivia said firmly. "I want to help people who were like me. I want to use everything I've learned to make a difference here in Seoul where it all started." She paused. "And I want to be with you, not because I'm grateful or scared or have no other options, but because I love you, because I've always loved you." Chang Mao kissed her then, deep and claiming, 4 years of separation pouring into the connection between them. "I love you," he said against her lips. "I never stopped, never even came close." "Then we do this," Olivia said. "For real this time. No more hiding, no more secrets. I'm an adult now. I make my own choices." "My world will judge you," Chang Mao warned. "They'll say you're too good for me, that I'm corrupting you." "Let them talk," Olivia replied. "I know the truth. You saved me, and now I'm choosing to stay." Over the following months, Olivia built a life that straddled 2 worlds. By day, she worked at the NGO, helping women and children escape abusive situations, using her education and resources to create safe passages out of danger. By night, she came home to Chang Mao, to the complicated man who had shown her what protection looked like when it came without conditions. His organization noticed, of course. Questions were asked about the boss's girlfriend, about whether her work might complicate his business. But Chang Mao made it clear that Olivia was not to be touched, not to be questioned, not to be involved in anything illegal. She existed in a protected bubble within his world, allowed to do her work without interference. And surprisingly, some of his men began to respect her for it. They saw how she handled situations with grace and intelligence, how she never asked Chang Mao to compromise his boundaries, how she navigated the complexity of loving a criminal while maintaining her own moral compass. One evening, nearly a year after Olivia's return, they were having dinner when she brought up something she'd been thinking about for weeks. "I want to start a foundation," she said, "using some of the resources you have access to. A safe house network specifically for teenagers escaping abuse. Places like your apartment was for me." Chang Mao set down his chopsticks, considering. That would require significant capital, and it would put a spotlight on the funding sources. "I know," Olivia said, "but it would also do genuine good. We could save dozens of kids every year, give them the same chance you gave me." "Using my money earned through illegal means, to do something legal and good," Chang Mao said slowly. "That's complicated." "All the best things are," Olivia replied. Chang Mao looked at her for a long moment, then smiled, a real smile that transformed his usually stern features. "You're going to change everything, aren't you?" "I'm going to try," Olivia said. 6 months later, the first safe house opened quietly in Gangnam. No fanfare, no publicity, just a secure location where teenagers in danger could find immediate shelter. Within 3 months, it had helped 15 young people escape situations ranging from family violence to stalking to trafficking. Olivia managed it directly, interviewing every potential resident, ensuring they received counseling, legal help, and educational support. She remembered what it felt like to be trapped, and she made sure no one who came through her doors ever felt that way again. Chang Mao watched her work with a mixture of pride and awe. She had taken the darkness of her own experience and alchemized it into something that helped others. She had become the person his sister might have been if she'd survived. On the anniversary of the day Olivia had hidden in his car, they returned to that same street. It was raining again, the city lights reflecting off wet pavement exactly as they had that night. They stood together under an umbrella, looking at the building where it had all started. "Do you remember what you said to me?" Olivia asked. "I asked who was following you," Chang Mao recalled. "And I said I didn't know," Olivia continued. "But he was behind me and I was terrified." "You were brave," Chang Mao said. "You asked a stranger for help." "I asked the right stranger," Olivia corrected. She turned to face him. "You know what I think about sometimes? What would have happened if I'd chosen a different car, if I'd run somewhere else?" "Don't," Chang Mao said gently. "We found each other, that's what matters." "I think I was meant to find you," Olivia said. "I think everything that happened, the fear, the distance, all of it was leading to this. To us standing here, choosing each other every day." Chang Mao pulled her closer, kissing her forehead. "I spent years believing I was only capable of destruction. Then you showed me I could protect something worth protecting." "We protect each other," Olivia said. They stood there in the rain, two people shaped by darkness who had found light in each other, proof that sometimes the most unlikely connections become the most enduring. Seoul continued around them, unaware of the quiet revolution happening in their embrace. The gangster learning to build instead of destroy, the survivor learning to transform trauma into purpose, two hearts beating in sync against impossible odds. And somewhere in the city, a teenage girl would soon hide in someone's car, desperate for safety, not